Whether you think of NXT as the future of WWE's sports entertainment empire, or simply Triple H's center for independent wrestling fantasy booking, there's no denying that the majority of takeovers in the past few years have exceeded their neighbouring WWE pay-per-views. If the future looks like NXT, then the future is very bright indeed. The brand, built off the back of the company's reputable performance center and heaps of cash, heaps and heaps and heaps of cash, seems to have eaten up the best and the brightest in worldwide wrestling, replacing the reputable names of Samoa Joe, Seth Rollins, Shinsuke Nakamura, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, with similarly as great in-ring talent upon every single so-called promotion to the big leagues. Currently, the Florida-based arm of the WWE is home to some phenomenal talent. So we thought we would try our hand at predicting the future and Vince McMahon's ever-changing mood. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic.com, and these are 10 NXT stars with the biggest potential. Join us! Number 10, Kyle O'Reilly. Kyle O'Reilly kicks off our list as the member of the NXT roster, and more specifically the brand's premier stable, the Undisputed Era, who has crafted himself more of a niche in the NXT landscape than any other in recent times. The Canadian former Ring of Honor World Champion may have had a few of his shots at the limelight come as a result of circumstance, the injury to tag partner Bobby Fish for example, but there's no doubting quite how well O'Reilly has taken advantage of his extra time in the ring and every moment of relatively mainstream WWE exposure outside of it, stealing match performances, promos, and even entrances from his faction cohorts to become one of the most watchable parts of an act at the center of one of NXT's hottest storylines in recent times. While Undisputed Era leader Adam Cole seems to have the power of the Office behind him, and new member Roderick Strong is the teammate with the most heat as of late, it's actually O'Reilly who's been proving himself as the irreplaceable in the midst of the group's ascension, offering moments, spots, and facials that rival those of any main roster talent, elements of his personality that could stand him in good stead upon his debut in the bright lights and quick cuts of main roster programming. Number 9, Tommaso Ciampa. It seems that Tommaso Ciampa has nothing left to prove in NXT. He's had Match of the Year candidates as one half of his tag team with Johnny Gargano, why Ciampa, why, had Match of the Year candidates as a single star, worked as both a good guy and a bad guy with equally as impressive results, and he's given us wrestling moments we won't soon forget as part of arguably the best long-term NXT storyline in history, opposite friend turned foe Johnny Wrestling. Though a promotion to the main roster comes with a warning label that reads very clearly, do not put him on 205 Live, Ciampa's relatively diminutive stature does lend the clearly main event capable talent to questions like, how over with Vince McMahon could he ever get? Even in the shape he's in now, with veins popping out of his forehead and not a shred of fat on his entire body. With Ciampa, it's less about his talents and more about how much time and effort the creative team are willing to put into help develop the same aura around his character on Raw or SmackDown as Triple H and company have in NXT. If they succeed in building him equally as effectively, Ciampa has the potential to put us under his spellbinding tricks all over again. But whether that comes to pass remains to be seen. Regardless, he should be brightening many a pay-per-view/live special for many a year to come. If not, something has gone seriously wrong. Number 8, Pete Dunne. At the time of recording, the second ever WWE United Kingdom champion, Pete Dunne, is just 24 years old. My God, what am I doing with my life? The Black Country bruiserweight and leader of influential independent act British Strong Style is as charismatic as they come and already has such a unique in-ring look, presence and style that he simply must become a key player on WWE's main roster before all is said and done. Otherwise, what a waste. Dunne is the sort of wrestler who could wrestle anywhere with anyone. He's worked top-end matches with technical masters like Zack Sabre Jr. and equally burned the house down with high-flying cruiserweights like Mark Andrews, all while maintaining the same sadism that has come to define his character. The Office clearly like him too, putting him in the driving seat to represent an entire nation while developing him as the figurehead of that locality on WWE television, not just on NXT but also on the main roster where he has already debuted. Like Ciampa, Dunne may have an issue overcoming his size in the eyes of Vince McMahon, but his truly unique persona, look and in-ring style ensure he's always going to hold value somewhere in the industry, and Vinnie Mac likely won't want him taking that value elsewhere. Number 7, Ricochet. Ricochet is simply the personification of the modern wrestler. He's attractive, toned, and outlandishly athletic. The thing is, if you were to look at all of the wrestlers of his type in the world, he'd likely be in the top 2 for most people. And it's with that WWE know they have a legitimate game changer on their hands. The industry has evolved. No longer are slow, methodical, lumbering big man matches enough to entice crowds and make people part with their cash. Instead, guys like Ricochet have wowed audiences all over the globe with a new, more choreographed but also more physically impressive style, leading even The Rock to tag him as a future WWE champion. And if that isn't enough of a reason to be on our list, then what else do you want? The fact is that Ricochet has already headlined televised events for Lucha Underground in the US as Prince Puma, making him a legitimate main event television wrestler already, and while his work in Japan with Will Ospreay was controversial to say the least, there's no doubt that it injected something new and fresh into the wrestling landscape. Just as the likes of Rey Mysterio and Eddie Guerrero did in the 90s, Ricochet and Ospreay opened eyes to a new style on the indies. A style that Ricochet can now forge as his own moving forward within the WWE system to hopefully one day similar accolades to his heroes. Number 6, Johnny Gargano. Little Johnny Gargano sure has a way of getting you to root for him. And ever since his debut in NXT, it seems like he's scratched and clawed his way past every benchmark he possibly could to be where he is today. A 5-star match machine and the most universally beloved WWE wrestler since Daniel Bryan's initial rise to prominence. As is the case with many on this list, Gargano's size may be an issue with the office at the top, but with his current role being the ultimate underdog, there seems to be no reason as to why Johnny Wrestling can't become Johnny Sports Entertainment. Just imagine him debuting opposite Brock Lesnar as a surprise opponent, or answering a call-out from a red-hot AJ Styles. As is the case with a few other entries to this list, Gargano is the sort of performer who can get a good match out of people that work in different styles to himself, and it's this ability and his unparalleled ability to make us care for him that make him an undeniable prospect in the WWE in the years to come. Number 5, Bianca Belair. Bianca Belair is relatively new to the wrestling limelight, especially in comparison to most of the other names on this list, but the potential for her to reach the highest of heights within WWE seems ever more likely as the weeks and months pass by, not least because of her freakish athleticism. Showcasing a set of finishing moves that includes an effortless 450 splash, the likes of which the women's division has never seen hit with such elegance, Belair has already shown that there may only be a few roster members who can even touch her athletically. What seems most promising for this particular talent is the potential for this athleticism and her current gimmick of whipping opponents with her tied together hair to cover for her developing talents regarding in-ring psychology. If the match at any point seems off, draw heat with the hair. It's simple. What's most interesting is the likelihood that such a simple heat magnet would actually be more effective in front of a larger audience filled with more casual fans, making her one of the more reasonable choices for an early call-up of all of NXT's less experienced names. While on the road, she could develop psychology and other elements of her character, but get through the early days off the back of whipping opponents and then hitting them with a 450, making longevity a real possibility as well as success. Number 4, ALEISTER Black. Of all the NXT talents on this list, none can be considered to have more legitimacy as an ass-kicker than ALEISTER Black. The current NXT champion simply exudes a charisma that is entirely watchable while remaining just a little bit scary. His entrance is fantastic and his finish is awesome, but everything that comes in between is well and truly in keeping with the mythos around the character too. So while he doesn't speak much, he doesn't have to. In fact, the only reason we can foresee Black somehow not making it to the top is if WWE try to make him a comedy character, or there's some sort of unfortunate incident where he eats a live animal or actually kicks a man's head off their shoulders. He's gonna be fine. Number 3, Adam Cole, baby. If there is anyone on the NXT roster who currently seems like Triple H's pet project, it's Adam Cole. The leader of the Undisputed Era was given the opportunity to be NXT's first ever North American champion off the back of a few main event feuds, including one against now NXT champion ALEISTER Black, and has been described by Mr. Stephanie McMahon himself, that's Triple H, as being like an information sponge, so the office is certainly behind him. The former Ring of Honor World Champion and Bullet Club member importantly has a unique and technically excellent in-ring style, as well as a great promo. But most of all, he is a poster boy with the sort of pretty face that just about everybody that way inclined can find attractive. He's just a cheeky boy, isn't he? His size would perhaps be his only hindrance, but when you look that pretty and wrestle that well, does it really matter? Number 2, EC3. If you had to build a sports entertainer from the ground up, sorry, that's Randy Orton. If you had to build a 1980s throwback wrestler from the ground up, it would be EC3. He's got the tan, the muscles laid on top of muscles, the facial expressions, the pompous attitude, and the ability to make you hate him by merely smirking. The 1%er gimmick doesn't harm either. The thing is, EC3 is pretty much a top-tier talent already, having been a leading figure in Impact for several years as an undefeated newcomer and then world champion. And he's worked in the WWE system before as Derek Bateman, so he's certainly familiar with how the system works. It's less that EC3 has the potential to break out, and more a question of why is he in NXT in the first place? Surely if Bobby Lashley could head straight to the main roster, then EC3 could too. The top 1% has already had headline matches with the likes of Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe, and while he's early into his second run with the WWE, it doesn't seem possible that his persona will be something that Triple H can hide from Vince for much longer. Number 1. Velveteen Dream. Remember that existential crisis you had when we told you how old Pete Dunne was? Well, ready yourself because Velveteen Dream is 22. Jesus Christ, he's 22 and already better than I can even be on WWE 2K18. That means he potentially has 20 plus years left in the industry. Wow. The Velveteen Dream's athleticism is simply breathtaking, and his lack of fear regarding spots and bumps must be born from the blissful ignorance that comes with his youth, because otherwise he's a madman. Did you see that elbow drop? Most interestingly, he's managed to infiltrate the upper mid-card of NXT after just several months on television and only several years in the Performance Center. If he continues to progress as quickly as he has done, all of Velveteen's dreams will come true sooner than later. He's a goldmine waiting to be mined, and the WWE simply won't let that opportunity pass. Critics would argue that he would have to undergo a gimmick change at some point to legitimize him in the main event picture of the main roster, especially opposite legitimate monsters like Brock Lesnar, if he's still around, but when he's found a personality so fundamentally different and interesting in his own right, what's the point? Let him run with it all the way to the promised land. If written as brilliantly as he has been in NXT, we'll follow him all the way. So that's our list. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and you can follow me on Twitter here. If you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon, patreon.com/Cultaholic. And most importantly, don't forget to hit subscribe and join us.